Hello and welcome to the third and the Dawn Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always. Here to talk some NFL football. As always, we have a recap of Week 7, a preview of Week 8 coming up. Cecil, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Really interesting week of football. Let's get down to it. There's some crazy stuff to talk about for this week as well, especially in the world of spreads.
Absolutely. Last week was not the greatest week for gambling. For me personally, you had a parlay that hit, but for spreads, I think it was tough. And as you mentioned, this
Amen.
week's spreads just got uh, totally, I think, thrown off because of it. We're going to get into it in a little bit here. But let's start it off with our recap of Week 7, and we'll start with Thursday Night Football. It was the Jaguars and Saints, which isn't the worst Thursday Night Football matchup on paper. The Jaguars end up winning 31 to 24, and honestly, they controlled the game. The Saints tried to come back late, but their offense is so dysfunctional. Alvin Kamara had 12 receptions because all they could do is dump off passes to him. God bless you if you play PPR scoring in fantasy football. I know that's the common thing nowadays, but oh my God, 12 receptions for one player just on dump offs is annoying as hell. But yeah, Derek Carr is bad, and it's just like garbage time points to kind of make it look close. 15 fourth quarter points. Um, Good win for the Jaguars. They're on a roll now. I think they've won like four straight. But for the Saints, Derek Carr's not looking good. They have way more talent than they're showing in their record at 3-4 right now. And I think we already knew this coming into the season, but Dennis Allen's a bad coach and probably should be fired, Cecil.
Yeah, Dennis Allen, was a good defensive coordinator, but I mean, and the Saints defense has been good for a lot of years, but it just seemed like one of those classic, a good head coach leaves or retires or whatnot, and then his heir apparent is just not really any good. You look at the Jim Caldwells of the world, people like that, where it's like, I've got somebody in place to replace me, it'll be fine. And that guy is just not good at all. And you're almost like, how the hell did he really think this guy was good? Dennis Allen seemed to fit that mold of, he's just not the successor everyone thinks he's supposed to be. That being said, yeah, the Saints offense is dysfunctional to put it lightly. Basically, I mean, I see Derek Carr like multiple times during that game just being so angry at the receiving core. I mean, he was literally like screaming. It was insane. I mean, they just weren't connecting on anything. Receivers were stopping on their routes when, they could have had, a big play. It was Olave, it was Michael Thomas. Everyone kind of had some blame in that offense. Alvin Kamara, like you said, had a good game because he was just kind of getting dumped off at all times. Um, so the Saints disarray. Honestly, they almost did tie it up with Foss Moreau. If he had just caught that pass, he probably should have. It sucks, especially considering everything he's gone through over the last year. Recovering from cancer and all that. I mean, it's unfortunate to see that happen to someone like that. But on the flip side, I mean, the Jaguars look. I mean, they looked pretty good. Travis Lawrence or Trevor Lawrence. Ugh. Trevor Lawrence. It didn't look like his leg was really inhibiting him that much. He was able to make a couple runs. He was hitting passes with all the different receivers, and also, Travis Etienne is really kind of taken hold in that backfield. Multiple touchdowns over multiple weeks now. He's really involved, especially in the red zone and pass catch. Running the ball. He's kind of been their complete back. Like him to get some more yards at times, but I mean, overall, his Jaguars' offense is good, not great, and their defense is probably around the same thing. It's probably good. They're just a solid NFL team, which in well, we've looked through the landscape over the last couple weeks so far. Almost at the halfway point of the NFL season. Good can get you pretty far. It feels like so, and that seems to be what the Jacksonville Jaguars are right now. They're not a great team, but they're a good team in a not very good division. So they have an easy path to playoffs, and you just never know what can happen once you get there, kind of deal. It's sometimes it's just as easy as punching your ticket, and then the real fight begins.
Yeah, and impressive for the Jaguars too. I mentioned that they're on a four-game win streak. They had two of their weeks in London already, so they lost two home games already this season. But two of their wins coming in London is huge for them. I think 5-2 looking at maybe a good end of the season run here, and a team that maybe in the AFC playoffs where it's going to be, all these great teams facing off. We think, at least this is what preseason we thought was going to happen. They could be a team that surprises people again, like they did to the Chargers this past year. And for ETN too, I've heard a lot of people say he's probably, in terms of maybe because of his availability too, the second best running back in the league behind Christian McCaffrey this year. He's played out of his mind, and definitely deserves some credit there. All right, we'll go to Sunday. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Chicago Bears. The Bears win 30-12. Now, this was Tyson Bagent's first NFL start. It might end up being his only NFL start because you know how this works. He's an undrafted rookie from Shepherd University. His last start was against the Colorado School of the Mines, where he threw, I think, 3 interceptions. So there you go. He steps into the starting lineup, has a solid day. They simplify the playbook, and honestly, Deontay Foreman, who has 3 total touchdowns, 2 rushing and 1 receiving, really helps him out. And it makes you wonder why they don't do that for Justin Fields. But still, Tyson Bagent had a pretty good game. The Raiders had starting quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo out, to Brian Hoyer started. Aiden O'Connell got in late, but game was already over by that point. Maybe would have liked to see that a little bit flipped there. But Josh McDaniels still stinks. I don't know why they're still targeting Jacoby Myers like he's some number 1 receiver when they have Devontae Adams on the field. The Raiders are a mess. I don't think they're going to win too many games the rest of the year. I don't think the Bears are either, but great story for Tyson Bagent. We talked about him leading up to this game, and you got to give him some credit. I mean, it was 162 yards passing isn't the greatest cease, but at least he got the job done.
It's true, man. Tyson Bagent, this reminded me of Lynn Sandy back in the day. We're doing cross-reference here. We had Minshew Mania, but Minshew Mania was a little just crazy, him just chucking the ball up. This reminds me of, like, Jeremy Lin, New York Knicks, the savior of New York sports. Like, is Tyson Bagent that for the Chicago sports world? Can he shoulder that? I don't know. Probably not. It's probably another, like, he won this game. We may never hear from the man ever again. He'll become a Chicago sports legend because of it, and that's awesome. Or maybe if he pulls off another upset win, I will just praise that man till the end of time. Then again, the guy's a D2 prospect. I don't know how the hell. The Raiders are just in such disarray. Brian Hoyer could not move the ball to save his life. Like, we're talking can't fucking throw a ball past, the 10-yard line. Like, just straight up. Basically the refs are throwing pass interference calls on uncatchable balls because they're underthrown. And it's sad to look at. You have Devontae Adams. Jacoby Myers is not a bad number 2 receiver in the NFL. He's not great, but he's decent. He's startable. You can work with that. And you have Devontae Adams there, but you never used Devontae Adams. You'd forget that Devontae Adams is on this team by how much Jacoby Myers gets the ball thrown to him. That's how weird it is. I mean, and the Bears defense isn't some, steel trap. They don't have, a Sauce Gardner guarding Devontae Adams or something. There's nobody. The defense isn't good. So, a lot of question marks there. If I'm Josh McDaniels, I'm really questioning what I'm doing with this team too, because as we've seen in a lot of the NFL, you got to get the ball to your star players. I don't know how many times we have to tell you this, but Jesus Christ, throw the ball to the guy you're paying, over $20 million a year to catch the ball. And if Brian Hoyer can't do that, get Aiden O'Connell back in there, because that guy looked good in preseason. He played decently in relief while Garoppolo was hurt. Put the kid in there. Put the rookie in there. See if you got something, because a lot of people have said, see what Aiden O'Connell's got. And if it's not it, then you move on, or maybe you found somebody that can actually play games for the quarterback position. Because Jimmy Garoppolo can't stay healthy, and he's a stopgap anyway. Give the rookie a shot. I mean, honestly, it can't be any worse than what Brian Hoyer, as much as I love Brian Hoyer, and we all know that. I do love me some Aiden O'Connell, and it's just very apparent at this point in Brian Hoyer's career that Aiden O'Connell has a better chance of winning football games for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, one note on Mark Davis, the Raiders owner. He did get a championship this past week. He had the Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA win the championship. It's funny how I think he's less involved in that. Maybe that's the key, removing yourself a little bit. And I just want to say, like, Josh McDaniels, he would be fired if Mark Davis had the money. That's a big rumor going out there, at least. But they keep on missing in the draft. So like they hit like once in a while. Like Max Crosby was a huge hit for a mid round pick, and he's playing awesome, and he's arguably like defensive player of the year good this year. But this year we talked about it. The first round pick, top 10, was Tyree Wilson. And Cecil, we talked in the draft. Like, all he did in college was he just won because he was bigger than everyone. He's in the pros now. You're not at Texas Tech anymore. You picked a top 10 player who went to. I'm not a helmet scout. I don't like say, hey, this guy went to this college. But a defensive player from Texas Tech in the top 10 who all he does is win by being big, that guy hasn't done anything yet for you. So if you're going to have a team that you want to win, first of all, get better players. But second of all, draft better players, do a better job evaluating. So it's just like an organizational failure at this point. And I think we're kind of seeing that like maybe when they had Derek Carr a couple years ago, made the playoffs, with how they operate, that's maybe the max they can do until something changes inside that organization. Probably starting with Josh McDaniels getting fired after only coaching for a year and a half now.
I'm telling you, man, let the Vegas casinos have the franchise. Mark Davis just put it down on the roulette table, put it on black, figure out if you have enough money then to, revamp your franchise, hire a scouting department, fire Josh McDaniels, or just let the casinos do it. They'll do a better job.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be fun, too. Would have to go through a lot of allegations of fixing games, but, I think it's the the publicity would be good for the league. So let's move on to the Browns and Colts. The Browns win this one 39-38. Kareem Hunt has a late touchdown for them. Jerome Ford had gone out with an injury, and Kareem Hunt ended up having 2 touchdowns to help them get the win. Cease, because we are big weather guys here, this is the first loss that they've ever had in Lucas Oil Stadium when the roof is open but the windows are closed. I think they're 10-1 now, so that's something to know. You got to keep that in mind for the gambling. But the Browns had Deshaun Watson start the game. At one point he had 2 interceptions. He had more interceptions than completions, I believe, at some point. It was awful. He is now out this week. They already said he's out this upcoming week. PJ Walker's going to start. He has a negative EPA, expected points added per play. He's a -1 for the season, and they're playing better with him at quarterback than Deshaun Watson. I mean, if Watson misses a lot extended time, it's probably a net positive for the Browns, but they should be going to the trade market to try to get one of these quarterbacks. 4-2 because of that defense, even though the defense let them down a little bit in this one. But they get the win. That's the important thing. It just doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, I mean, the defense is elite. That's just easy enough to say at this point. Though they did give up a lot of plays to a Colts team that they probably shouldn't have. So you take that as you will. They're really good at creating pressure and making mistakes. Deshaun Watson is not the answer. I know you know it. I know I know it. I know most people seem to know it. The only person who doesn't seem to be the national media and whoever is broadcasting any Cleveland Browns game. Because love of God, I just the excuse can't be. I know he gets hurt, sure, but the excuse can't just be like, oh, his shoulder's not feeling well. Like, this isn't a shoulder thing. This is I'm throwing balls directly. Like, I'm just literally sending, just full send. I don't care who knows where the ball's going. You can look right at me, and I will tell you where it's going. All you gotta do is run over there. Like, it's just not even good. Like, literally, we were watching the game together. You can call this one right before Deshaun Watson got hurt. It's the same play. He rolls out of the pocket. He starts running. I just go, it's an interception, and it literally almost was. Until it got overturned. It's literally going to be either a big play. It's big play one or the other way. He's either going to get a 40-yard completion, or it's going to be an interception because Deshaun Watson can't do anything besides those two things. And that doesn't win you games in the NFL. If that's the case, we should put Jameis Winston back in there. Put Jameis in. Jameis to the Browns. I don't want laser eyes on the Browns because I love them too much. I don't want to root against them. But Jesus, that's the same thing. I don't understand why Jameis Winston is so bad, but Deshaun Watson is good. I don't understand why the NFL is trying to build this guy up. I know, we could go over NFL conspiracy time all the time, but considering the character history, they just want the Browns to be good so bad as a market for them. I think that's the narrative because everything else points to why the hell does the NFL want Deshaun Watson to succeed? It seems like a nightmare. But I think that they just want the Browns. They want the storyline of the Browns finally becoming a good franchise. It won't happen until that front office just stops doing stupid shit like this, where Deshaun Watson is the savior of the franchise. In reality, I mean, the Brian Hoyer effect, right? We all remember that year. Brian Hoyer was the starting quarterback. They were 7-5. They put, Johnny Manziel in, and then the season went kaput from there. Same thing. Like they don't necessarily have to have this elite guy. They don't have the guy. And a lot of NFL teams make this mistake of when you don't have the guy, it's better to have a guy that can manage a game than a guy who's just going to go out there and lose it for you. Like make him a non-factor. Jimmy Garoppolo got to a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins wins 12 games a year. These guys aren't winning Super Bowls, but man, I mean, you got a defense like that, you don't need them to. You really don't. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. They can do that. And they going to do that with PJ Walker? I don't think so. But could you do it with someone marginally better? I think so. Just take care of the football. Your defense will keep you in games. Stefanski knows how to run an offense when it comes to the running game. Passing offense, a little questionable. And they have a good offensive line that can keep the quarterback clean and open run lanes. So, I mean, that's a winning formula. Is it get you to a Super Bowl? It's hard to say. There's just so many things and variables depending on who you play, matchups. Playoffs, it really can be anything, especially what we're looking at with teams now. But, the Cleveland Browns can't lose games. Like, they almost lost the Colts here. The Colts are not a good team. They're fun to watch. I like watching them, but they're not a playoff caliber team. And, Cleveland's defense can't keep them in games against elite teams always. They can't hope for pouring rain, especially once it gets to winter. It's not going to rain like that. I mean, these are always weird. It's fall. It's Cleveland. It's going to just start snowing. And then the snow, the defensive linemen aren't going to get the same traction. And they're not going to be able to rush the passer like they are now and just take people out. So, Deshaun Watson, not the guy. Browns get another win. Is it going to end up with them making the playoffs? I mean, they probably could. They could win the AFC North right now just because of the way things are going in that division. But will that mean long-term success as a franchise or, success in the postseason? I don't really think so.
I'm with you, Cecil. I misspoke earlier. He only had one interception thrown in this game. He was 1 of 5 with an interception. I believe one got overturned. There was a big challenge on that one, I believe. The best quarterback for this team right now is the one they had last year, Jacoby Brissett. If you put Jacoby Brissett with this team, with this defense, they're doing way better. And we saw it last year. Jacoby Brissett outplayed Deshaun Watson. I get that you paid Deshaun Watson, so now you kind of are stuck with him. But Jacoby Brissett was playing well. You need to go get someone like Jacoby Brissett for the rest of the season if Deshaun Watson's going to miss time and not prove, which, again, he hasn't shown any signs of being good before the injury last year or this year. It doesn't seem like it's going to work out in the end. They do have an easier schedule, obviously, from finishing last so many times. But it's not a winning formula to sit here and say, hey, this defense is going to hold up all the time because they nearly lost to the Colts, who they allowed Gardner Minshew to score 38 points. And I'm a big Minshew guy, but they're not the Chiefs, all right? They're not. So,
hey, man, just remember, 2 years ago, they had a quarterback that won them a playoff game. Mm-hmm. And, they lost a game against the Kansas City, prime Kansas City Chiefs. That's what happened. That was the team. They had Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's doing just fine in Tampa right now. They're fighting in the NFC South. I mean, imagine if Baker Mayfield just stayed on this team, man. Like, Baker Mayfield I would be very much more confident in this Browns team. Just ultimately because Baker Mayfield wouldn't have to do much of anything. Just have to hold on the football, do some rollouts on some, play action pace, and just throw it deep every once in a while. Other than that, just keep taking the easy throws. And Baker Mayfield can do that. Mm-hmm. So, again, they should have never – we said it from the beginning, moving on from Baker Mayfield to mortgage a franchise for the hope that Deshaun Watson maybe be good again, which was already quantifiably kind of questionable that he was really ever elite to begin with. It was a bad move, and again, it's going to affect Cleveland for years.
But Cece's a winner. Anyway, go on the trade market, Brad. If you're serious about making the playoffs, I mean, you have a good start to the season. The defense looks good. Go on the trade market. Go get Jacoby Brissett. Hell, go for the moonage. Go get Kirk Cousins if you want, if you can find a way to afford it. Kevin Stefanski worked with him before he took the job for the Browns. To get someone, because you're not going to get very far the rest of the way if you can't get this offense moving better than you have. And you're already down to your third option at running back with Kareem Hunt, because Jerome Ford, I think, is going to miss some time here. It's not going to be the smoothest once the injuries start piling up, because they're going to start piling up for all the teams. It's not just the Browns, but every team's going to start having them, and that's going to make things tough. One of the teams who's been having a tough time with injuries and also just playing bad, the Buffalo Bills. They lose to the New England Patriots. They lose 29-25. Now they needed to score a lot of points in the second half to kind of come back in this one, because the Patriots took an early lead, but they were unable to come back fully. Mac Jones actually played well in this one, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I do think that Bill Belichick has his 300th win, even though he didn't celebrate it after the game. They asked him about it, and he's like, I'm more focused on this team. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I mean, this dude loves the history of the NFL. He should say something. But Josh Allen had another interception. Cecil, I know you had some thoughts on the Bills, so I'm just going to clear out here and say, first, I'll say one last thing. This is a travesty. You lost to the freaking Patriots like this. I know it's Bill Belichick, but come on, man. Bill's got to do better than that.
Yeah, man, I said it while we were watching it. I said if the result was a Patriots win, I would say it. I think the Bills are in the fraud category right now. I think they're frauds. I mean, they do not look like the team they looked like 2 years ago or even last year. You know, kind of the magic with Josh Allen is fleeting. You know, there are times where he makes these crazy backyard catches, but really it's just predictable now, and the glaring holes in the rest of his game where it's making the intermediate throws, making just the normal throws you need to make, or just, you know, the offense being able to put together something that's just a sustainable long-term drive with Josh Allen just moving the ball methodically. Is it not happening right now? You're just praying that Stephon Diggs gets a big pass. And teams, especially like the Patriots, who Bill Belichick is notorious for years to just get rid of your best option and force you to win without it, the Bills show when that happens, they do not really have a plan. They don't have a plan B. Josh Allen is, I mean, I'm not going to say Josh Allen isn't great. I think Josh Allen is a great quarterback in this league. I think he's top 5. However, I think the game planning isn't there to really make it easier for him. And 2, I think he just keeps making boneheaded decisions. He has all the talent in the world, but man, the guy is just trying to make stuff out of things he doesn't need to do. Like, he doesn't have to do this. The Bills are talented enough to win games without Josh Allen just trying to throw it like – and he'll have these games, right? You saw the Dolphins game. You know, we saw old Josh Allen. We saw the Buffalo Bills from 2 years ago again just pop up. And they'll do that. They're going to pop up every once in a while. But the reality is, you know, that's not a good team. And, like, for us to just put Buffalo in this, like, oh, they're a great – you know, they're a playoff caliber team. I mean, they're probably going to make the playoffs just because of the reality. But the reality here, too, is if they play like this, they are not going to advance in the playoffs. They're going to be an easy first out, just like the Vikings were last year. I mean, congrats. You can beat up on some teams. That's great. You look good at points. But there's other times where you just look awful. And against teams that you don't need to look awful against. I mean, you barely were able to put a functioning offense against the New York Giants team that literally is – been a dumpster fire. People have been destroying week after week, and you can barely win. I mean, hell, they almost won the game. They were on the goal line. You almost lost. And then the Patriots, you just got embarrassed by. Like, that's 2 embarrassing games in a row for a team. You know, they did not come out firing in this one. They got beat up. They got, 10-0. They went up on them. So I just don't see a fire in this team. I don't know what Sean McDermott needs to do, but he needs to motivate this team fast because they are going into a weird skid. And for a team with this much talent, I get they get injuries. You know, Matt Milano's been out. You know, they've lost Tre'Davious White. But they lost Tre'Davious White last year, and they were fine. This team can't stop the run, and the offense is not something that's functioning. They can't rely on Josh Allen to just make big-time throws because every time, if you're forcing that on him, he's going to make big-time mistakes as well. Don't let that be the ride or die of your offense. If you're in a game in the playoffs and it's going to be, we're either going to win or lose it by Josh Allen because, we're against a team that's super talented like the Kansas City Chiefs, fine. Go for it. Let's see what happens. But this is the NFL regular season. You got to be able to have some kind of tempo, something you're building on. I mean, these teams aren't that unbeatable. So they're in the fraud category until further notice. They got to start doing something. It's – the AFC East is not the strongest division by any means. But, I mean, they've lost the Jets now. They lost the Patriots. They almost lost to the Giants. They beat the Dolphins in that game, but they're not winning the AFC East in my eyes right now. I think the Dolphins will all they got to do is beat Buffalo. This next time, the Dolphins are going to win the AFC East, and then the Bills are in a dogfight with everybody else for the wild cards.
The way the Bills are playing right now, they may not even have to beat the Bills next time. They could just maybe win it. But yeah, not to bring everything back to the draft, but everything is about the draft, Cecil. They had a chance in this draft, in the past two drafts, to upgrade at wide receiver 2, at wide receiver 3, whatever they needed to do to get someone outside of Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen, and they didn't do it. Gabe Davis in this game, 1 catch for 6 yards. This is the guy all those fantasy analysts, oh, he's so great, he's so great. No, he has one good game, and then he has one terrible game, and then another good game, and then 3 bad games, and that's not what you need. You need someone more consistent than that. Now they took Dalton Kincaid, but they didn't and he had an okay game, 8 catches for 75 yards. Don't get me wrong, he's still a rookie learning things, but they didn't need. They had Dawson Knox, who was fine. Go get someone else who can take some of the attention away from Stephon Diggs or the running game too. You need a wide receiver 2 badly. We talk about how important just having good players on these teams matters, and I can't sit there and say, hey, you just keep on running Gabe Davis out there. And also, you go re-sign Cole Beasley last year, and that's your big plan for a wide receiver. No, go get your quarterback some help, man. At least do something like the Cowboys did last year. Like this year, they got Brandon Cooks, who has done nothing, but at least they tried. Go show me you're going to try. So, Bills having injuries, but they also are not setting themselves up well for success. That's a big issue, and I think they're going to figure it out at some point, but they don't show any signs of it right now. Next one up, Cease, we got the Giants beating the Washington Commanders, maybe one we didn't necessarily see coming. Tyrod Taylor, 2 touchdowns. One was to Darren Waller. This game was absolutely awful. Never recommend rewatching this game ever. I would burn it from the NFL archives. But the important thing here is Saquon played, and he is that important to the offense, regardless of whether it's Daniel Jones, who did not play in this game, or Tyrod Taylor. Sam Howell's struggling right now for the Commanders, but I think just... It goes without saying, Cease, I guess, but if you have good players and play them and not really think, oh, it's a running back, no, he's actually valuable to this team, and they're able to win the game because he's able to run the ball 77 yards, and he also had a lot of receiving yards, too.
Yeah, dude. It's ridiculous. The Commanders, we kind of saw it a little bit. The Commanders aren't necessarily a good team. But, they're not this bad either. Tyrod Taylor might be the spark for the Giants. Is that what we're seeing possibly here? We know Danny Dimes isn't it. But ultimately, it's Tyrod. I'd love to have Tyrod get his shot because it feels like everywhere he goes, he just gets undermined, and that's kind of it. But it's just one of those things where you're just I don't know what to think of either of these teams, right? They're both very middling. They're guys with quarterbacks that are not necessarily great or really have that much potential to be great anyway. And it just seemed like Sam Howell struggled. The Giants defense stood up, and then that was kind of all she wrote.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't need to spend too much time on it because, again, they should probably burn this from the NFL archives. It was not that fun of a game, even though it ended up being somewhat close. Let's move on to the Falcons and Buccaneers. Cease. The Falcons get the win here. Desmond Ridder actually played pretty well. The biggest thing here for me is I think the Falcons are actually a good team in the sense that they have a good defense and they can run the ball and they can win some games in this NFC South where no one's really sticking out. But we need to deport Arthur Smith to a different country right now. Did not play Bijan Robinson. He said that Bijan wasn't feeling well before the game. There was nothing on the injury report. Again, that's awful that they didn't do that. But they put him in for certain plays, but it was mostly just for pass pro. If you're going to use them, use them. Don't sit there and we'll keep you into pass pro and then not give you the ball. I'm getting pretty fed up with Arthur Smith, and if he doesn't make the playoffs this year or next year, you got to start wondering what you're doing here because you draft these talented players and you don't even use them. And we get Arthur Smiths from the Tennessee coaching tree. They had AJ Brown and they used him. I don't get it. They're not they're starting to use Kyle Pitts a little bit, but not all the way. So yes, I am a fantasy manager who owns Bijan Robinson. Yes, I'm a little biased here, but also from a football standpoint, he cannot keep on getting away with this. They're going to start losing games if they don't start using their good players.
Right. No, 100%, man. The Falcons. Arthur Smith doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, they're getting game wins, which is great. But I mean, Bichon not getting any carries, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, we get to the Lions here in a little bit, but Dave Montgomery was at least producing, and now you put Jameer Gibbs in there, and he had a decent game. But like what is the ultimate? What is the end goal here? So that Tyler Algiers can get you like 3 yards a carry. What is that doing for you? It really doesn't make any sense. They managed to capitalize on a turnover really, and the Bucks kind of just let them score some points down the field. But I mean, this wasn't a high scoring game. The Falcons put up 16 points, and yeah, it's just an ugly game where it seemed like the turnover differential really just made it, what it was. It wasn't anything big. It was a game of field goals, 2 touchdowns to start, and then it was just attrition after that. And one quarterback made the mistake. I mean, Desmond Ritter didn't do anything really of note, but he didn't turn the ball over, and sometimes that can be everything. But ultimately, it's just this isn't sustainable. I don't trust the Falcons at all. I they can win the NFC South, and I just go that doesn't matter. Like the NFC South at this point has become so weak. It's bad. I mean, if I was going to say right now, I would still take the Buccaneers and the Saints over the Falcons to win the division because I think Atlanta has all the talent in the world, but as long as Arthur Smith keeps playing games like this, not playing the star players, Drake London only, and Kyle Pitts barely do anything half the games. It might as well be they might as well have the same talent on their team that the Carolina Panthers do. Because sure, they get a couple more wins, but ultimately, like Arthur Smith is a good coach getting the talent out of the players he is. But the question is, you're not a good coach because you're not using the talent. You're not the maximum output, right? It's Arthur Smith's winning games, but with the least amount of quality possible. When in reality, you gave coaches what he has right now, and they should be doing a lot better. And it's underperforming. They're getting the win, but it's underperforming and very underwhelming with a team like this.
Yeah, definitely. That NFC South is going to be fun to figure out at the end. I mean, and fun not in the same way that some of these other divisions like the AFC North might be competitive down the stretch. The NFC South, someone's got to start stepping up, man. Hopefully, it's not another 7-win team making the playoffs. So let's move on to the Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, these two team seeds have had like there might be 5-2, but they've had roller coaster seasons in that they go 1 week from looking really good to 1 week looking really bad. So last week the Ravens, we talked about how they had so many drop passes, the offense was out of sync, and all that. Lions we talk about every week. It's like, oh, they looked really good and then they look really bad. So this week the Ravens were up and the Lions were down. The Ravens won 38-6. I think the offense really stepped up for them, like I mentioned. They had Gus Edwards have a big day, Zay Flowers have a big day, Mark Andrews have a big day. They've got some guys that maybe they haven't had in the past stepping up. And at the end of the day, Jared Goff was pretty bad in this one for the Lions. That's going to cost you, but still 5-2 for both these teams, looking good ahead of the schedule here. So we'll see how they do.
Yeah, this was a big litmus test game kind of for both teams, but especially the Lions because, it's been a team that's gotten blown out by teams in the past and, the Detroit Lions and what they've been over the last 30 years is just, sticks around. They did not play well. Jared Goff he went full Jared Goof. Like that's just really it. The Goof troop was there. The guy gets terrified when he's under pressure. Like it's when you look at the tape, you watch this game, and the Ravens, if there's any like big pressure, Jared Goff just panics. He can't handle it. And there's nothing wrong. There's a lot of good things with Jared Goff's game, but ultimately, man, he has to be able to roll out. He needs to be able to get away from the pressure. And he just panics. He's not able to fight off people trying to sack him. He's not able to get rid of the ball. It looks bad. Like when he gets sacked, it looks bad. He does not look good. Michael Jordan looks good when he strikes out in baseball. Jared Goff looks really bad when he gets sacked. It looks pitiful. But other than that, he's going to be up and down. The Giants, or not the Giants, the Lions don't need Jared Goff to be that elite. They don't need that. But the offense is just, it's one of those things where he needs to take that step forward. And then, the Lions defense just wasn't able to stop the running game of the Ravens at all. Like they just got kind of carved up. And this is one of those games you just, you're away. Baltimore's not the easiest place to play. You're in a dome usually. And I think it just, when it came to grit and, who wanted to come play football, nasty, run game kind of style, the Ravens wanted that and the Lions wanted no part of it. And it kind of showed. And I mean, I think they'll still bounce back. They should still win the NFC North, but they got to be able to win more of these gritty, outdoor games for me to really say that, they got Super Bowl aspirations by any means.
I would agree, Cecil, and especially NFC might be like one of those conferences where you can finish the regular season well, but then even if you get through the playoffs with some of these tougher teams, then you have to play an AFC team in the Super Bowl that is ready for that. So definitely with you on that one. We'll go to another AFC North team. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Los Angeles Rams 24-17. They scored 14 fourth quarter points to come back in this one, so it was a very disappointing loss for the Rams. For this game, we had at the end of the game there was Kenny Pickett being down. It's like hitting his knee on the ground before he got a first down that iced the game. Now they ruled it was a first down. So that means that there wasn't a review and the Rams were out of challenges. If he would have been short of the first down, it's automatically reviewed. So it's kind of one of those loopholes in the freaking rules that, like, hey, they should probably review any sort of fourth down that's kind of close because it really affects the game. But the Rams didn't have any challenges left, so they had no chance to come back at the very end. Puka Nacua had a big day. Cooper Kupp did not. And I think the Steelers won despite Matt Canada in this one, but if I got to say anything, it's just throw it to George Pickens. He had a lot of good plays in this one, and it honestly averaged over 20 yards per catch. Just throw it up to him. He had like 7 targets. Give him more. Let's see what he can do.
No, absolutely. I mean, the Rams just squander away a golden opportunity to, be above 500 here. I mean, they just didn't. Matt Stafford did not have a good game. He struggled again. Another guy that really struggles under pressure. Sean McVay really loves these pocket guys. It seems, but he struggled. He had that one turnover, which is big. But other than that, Cooper Kupp wasn't really that existent. But I mean, there were guys. I mean, Freeman and Henderson each had over 60 yards. So you have over 120 yards rushing this game. Puka Nacua over 150 yards receiving. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, he has been great. I mean, there's a lot of things on this Rams offense has been really good and better than expected. But it's just they didn't make plays in the key times, and really you got George Pickens involved, and he made all the big plays for the Steelers. He is their offense. Honest to God. That guy, literally, you're not kidding. That guy should get almost every catch. He shouldn't only get 5 catches a game. That guy should be, almost 10 catches a game because Deontay Johnson isn't getting it done. He had a decent game here, but they just have nothing behind him, and they just have no other real playmakers. I mean, Najee Harris did better than he has been doing in this game, but still not great. And Kenny Pickett played a solid game and didn't basically just let everything come to him. Played, conservative, didn't give up any turnovers. And, that might be something the Steelers can do to have a winning formula. Kenny Pickett doesn't have to be a world beater. No one thought he was going to be. And if he can just play conservative football, not turn the ball over, maybe every once in a while get him key first downs, that might be all they need, especially against half the NFL that can barely run an offense at this point. So Steelers kind of eke out a win, and the Rams kind of played below expectation here, and that could be a costly loss for them down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rams are getting in the territory of like they're playing better than we thought, but maybe we thought they were a good team, and now they're maybe not going to be a good team. Maybe they're not a good team because they've lost to the Bengals, they've lost to the Eagles, they lost to the Steelers, they lost to the 49ers. The win against the Seahawks, that's great, but that's a division team. That happens sometimes. And if they lose in the upcoming weeks here, they could be going right back to being what they were last year or what they thought they would be this year. Staying with some NFC West teams, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 20-10, and Jackson Smith-Njigba and Jake Bobo got touchdowns in this one. Those are 2 rookies. That's pretty good for them. But really, the Cardinals are just running out of steam. They're a team that is designed to tank, and they were playing their hearts out the first couple weeks of the season, but at a certain point you hit a wall and start losing games that you probably should be losing. So
Yeah, it's hard when you just loss after loss, and you're playing hard at first. You get a win, that kind of propels you forward to keep trying and playing hard. But eventually you start just getting beat by better teams, and you're just getting flat out beat. Like you look at that Bengals game against Cardinals, it was close, and then the talent just kind of came out, and the Cardinals just had no real way around it. James Conner got hurt too. He's been hurt. I think that was really the big engine and motivator of running that offense. Without him, it's just not the same. I mean, you got guys that are, replacement level all over this team. They're interchangeable. They're really not anything to write home about by any means. And that every once in a while, if you motivate all those guys and they stay in games, anything can happen if you let people stay in. And they're fighting for jobs and want to get better, and they want their brand to be out there for when they can be free agents again, which they mostly will be after this year. But really, yeah, like you said, the tank is empty. It's just demoralizing after a while, and it's hard that if you're not winning a game and team finally comes back and you got guys like DK Metcalf didn't play here, but you have Kenneth Walker, you have Tyler Lockett. These guys are good, talented players. You have Geno Smith who's playing well, and it's winning. You're playing a team that is winning, wants to win, and is coached well enough to continue to get there. It's hard. It's hard to get a win in the NFL, and it's even harder when you're just not set up for success. And the GM doesn't want you to win games. It's just that simple. Kyler Murray, I don't think they want him to come back either. They want the tank job, and it's the right thing for the organization. But it sucks to be a player on that team.
oh, absolutely. So we'll see if Kyler Murray comes back. He's been cleared to practice and everything. The joke is that he got cleared to practice the day after the Modern Warfare 3 beta ended, so that's kind of going on there. But yeah, they're not like one of the worst tanking football teams ever. It sucks that they have to go through this, but that's how the NFL goes. Seahawks 4-2, looking pretty good, especially with the 49ers struggling, which we'll get to here in a little bit. All right, the Broncos beat the Packers 19-17. Seas they were at home at Mile High. I think that played a big factor in that. Really a game that was kind of boring. The only thing that people were kind of watching for was maybe the over-under in this one. I would say that the Broncos started off hot, the Packers came back, and then the Broncos ended up getting the win. Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator for the Packers, is very bad. Yes, they held a team to 19 points. That's usually good enough to win some games. But there's points on Twitter, you'll see videos. I forget who posted it, otherwise I would credit for sure. That they, the Broncos were in the red zone and they had extra offensive linemen and tight ends in. So the Packers had 6 defensive linemen and a linebacker or 2 and then defensive backs. That's normal. That's how you're supposed to stop those type of plays. But they ended up on their game-winning touchdown drive, or the Broncos' game-winning touchdown drive. The first play they did what they should do with the 6 defensive linemen. The second play, they changed it up and they put 4 defensive linemen, 5 defensive backs, and only 2 linebackers up there, and the Broncos just run it right through them. It's stuff like that just doesn't make any sense. They have enough talent on the defense to be very, very good with the first-round picks they've spent on that defense. But that you just can't do stuff like that. And when you have Jordan Love, who's not the greatest, that's just going to hurt you in the end.
No, absolutely. Jordan Love just did not play well in this game, flat out. He played decently well the first 3 weeks of the season, and since that point, he's just gone back to just doing nothing. I don't think he's thrown a touchdown in 3 games. It's his yards. He's struggling mightily right now, to put it simply. He's not a good quarterback. Matt LaFleur is not a good coach. The Packers are not good. It's just straight up that way. Aaron Jones is really the only thing that makes this team good, and he's been so limited. It's not a joke. It's sad to see it, because he really is the only thing that can make this team worth anything and worth watching. Because A.J. Dillon has finally done something compared to what he did early in the season, which was a yard a carry, it felt like. But yeah, the Packers are in absolute disarray. The Broncos get a win at home, Mile High. We've talked about all the time. It's a huge advantage, but good for them getting a win. And Packers. What do you look at it this season and go, what are you building here? There's nothing. There's nothing to build on. There's nothing to look forward to this season. It's just a team that's not very good, that isn't overachieving, underachieving. They're gonna be 7-10, 8-9. That's where they are. That's their destiny, and that's the worst place on earth to be as an NFL franchise. You have a cool, yeah, and it's not necessarily because of the talent. There's still plenty of talent on this team. The problem is you don't have the quarterback, you don't have the coach, and you don't really have the playmakers you used to have. You still have good skill players, and you've got your probably your best offensive player. Aaron Jones has been hurt for most of the season. It's not a winning formula.
Yeah, I think they need a rebuild. They need a total just restart. Last time it worked out when they had a quarterback step in for a future Hall of Famer. It's not the same situation this time. Probably fire LaFleur. Get some new people in the building. That's what I would do. But I get it. Play the rest of the year, see how it works out. I guess for Jordan Love and let him develop. But it might be time for a full rebuild from top to bottom. Next one up, Cease, we have the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Los Angeles Chargers 31-17. The Chiefs stay undefeated with Taylor Swift in attendance. Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes have a nice new handshake. That's what the big news of the game is, apparently, according to what's being covered. But on a different sense, Patrick Mahomes had one of his best games of the year. 424 yards, 4 touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 179 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Rashee Rice is stepping up at wide receiver. They have McCole Hardman back from the Jets now. So it looks like they're kind of gearing up to be a pretty good team again, and they have the defense playing better, and they run the ball better this year. So they may actually be a better team than even we thought at the start of the year. But what's underlying this, seems to me, is that the Chargers are a bad football team. You look at their 2 wins, it's over the Raiders and Vikings so far. They need to get back on track. This was a game that they could have really used to boost their confidence and get things going, but they're just not good right now.
Right, they really aren't. The defense is not stopping anybody. They're really not that good. The offense just it's very underwhelming. It's surprising how underwhelming it is. I don't know whose fault it is. I'm guessing it might be their offensive coordinator. Every Cowboys fan's most beloved man. Or it could be just Staley. It's everything about it is very meh. And it's starting to lose the luster on Justin Herbert. I think he's got a physical talent. We'll talk about it, but what does it matter? Like it's just, I mean, the Chargers can't win games. He's not really winning them games. It's just, Justin Herbert has kind of been portrayed as this franchise quarterback that will win you games, and he's not winning anybody anything. And it's not like he doesn't. Sure, Mike Williams is out, but he still has Keenan Allen, who's still producing at a high level despite his age. Austin Eckler is back there as well. I mean, Jordan Palmer, and they drafted a receiver. They've done well in relief, but I think the offensive line's still just a mess, and he's just not making the big plays when they absolutely need him to. Last couple of years we've seen some epic Chargers games where I can't believe Justin Herbert completed this rainbow pass. This was so cool. Now it's just Chargers aren't very good. Don't expect much from them. The Chiefs are gearing up to be the supervillains of the NFL again. It's good. It's good for the sport to have a supervillain, because that there's a Taylor Swift stat is a little upsetting. Who the hell cares? But more importantly, there's a certain sibling of a certain star quarterback that made an appearance in the box. Jackson Mahomes is back out there. And to know that he's still lurking, despite the scandals, despite what's going on legally with him, he's back around the organization, and, that makes him easier to root against. Anybody with Jackson Mahomes ties deserves to go down. So off they go.
I thought it was a Taylor Swift thing, but yeah, whatever. Either way, whoever you want to cheer against for the Chiefs, you pick out someone on the Chiefs organization, and you cheer against them, and then we can all cheer against them together. Cease, I will say, I think the Chargers need to use Quentin Johnston more, their first-round pick out of TCU. Now, Mike Williams is down for the season, and watching their games, and I believe even Trevor Sikkema from the PFF NFL Stock Exchange podcast said this, like, he's getting open and they refuse to throw him the ball. Justin Herbert, I don't know if it's a trust thing or whatever, they need to start spreading the ball out. They have so many good weapons with Eckler, with Gerald Everett, with even Josh Palmer and Keenan Allen. If you get him involved too, it maybe opens things up. Just a thought there. You pick a guy in the first round, maybe you should try to use him. And Arthur Smith is running the Chargers too. All right, Sunday Night Football. We have the Eagles beating the Dolphins 31-17. Now, this game was tied in the third quarter, 17-17, and then the Eagles were able to kind of run away with it. I will say this is a big thing because the Dolphins have kind of played two teams that we thought were like really good this year in the Bills and Eagles. They have lost both those games. So for me, Cease, I'm not saying they're frauds like maybe you had said about the Bills, but I am saying before I will pick them to go deep in the AFC playoff picture, I need to see them win a big game. And for the Eagles, it's still sloppy. Jalen Hurts is still turning over the football, but they're getting wins because they built their team through the trenches, and that's how you win football games.
Absolutely. I mean, you can tell it's just the offensive line for the Dolphins was not very good. There was a lot of pressure on Tua. And, they throw, and that offense works very quickly, but even that wasn't enough to really offset the relentless pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles. On top of that, Raheem Monster didn't really get the running lanes he usually gets. So I think the Dolphins are still a good team. They're going to be a team to look out for in the playoffs, but it would be very nice for them to get that kind of quality win that they just really have not had yet. And this is just that mounts, and I'm not as worried about it, as compared to some teams. Like you said, I'm not going to call them frauds. It was close, and Philadelphia is a hard place to play. And this is one of those kind of gut check games where it was close until the end, and then Tua had that interception in the fourth quarter, and that kind of sealed it for the Eagles. But I mean, this is a hard place to play. It's a good team. I would like them to overcome it, but it didn't play out in some crazy fashion. They didn't get blown out. They were playing with them. And, a young team like this that hasn't really been here before, to really just be in it with these guys, I think it just will teach you a lot about yourselves. I think, they fought, they kept up. And honestly, it's good for them to see, how they look and to look at this tape and to see how they play against a team where they don't get to play in ideal conditions. They don't have this just tremendous upside compared to everyone else. So we'll see. I think Dolphins still one of the better teams in the AFC. Eagles, I don't know what it really taught me about the Eagles. It's the same thing, and it's, we'll get with the 49ers too. It's a lot of the great teams in the NFL right now are just, they don't feel great. They just feel, oh, they could be really good, and they have all the talent, and I've seen this basic same roster be really good, but suddenly they just don't put it all together in games. And I don't know if it's just, I really don't know what it is. It's not as easily quantifiable. I thought at first it was preseason, or, I think it's just, some quality coaches have left a lot of teams over the recent years, just, being, promoted to head coaches and coordinators and things like that. Staffs change, and, maybe it really is just a lack of top tier coaching in the NFL right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a lot of teams. I mean, I'm pretty confident in the Chiefs from here on out just because of that defense, and it seems like the offense is getting going. But everyone else, I've had like 49ers, there's some issues there. Eagles definitely not playing up to their par. Cowboys have lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost. Dolphins don't seem to beat anyone that's great. I mean, the Bengals, our Bengals, we'll talk about them later with our pick, haven't gotten the greatest start to the season. All these great teams that we thought were going to be great struggling, and maybe that's good. I mean, that's why people like the NFL, right? Is they say it can change each year, even though we have dynasties that keep on coming up, like the Chiefs that we all kind of like to root against. We still have different teams kind of showing up, I guess. So we'll see if some of the people we thought in the preseason will end up showing up to their talent level. But another team that I just mentioned is not performing is the 49ers. Cease. They lost to the Vikings 22-17. It was a weird game, but I have to say, first off, listening to Creed works. On Monday night, we had, the Vikings pumping themselves up by listening to Creed before the game, and they win that game. We had the Rangers win Game 7 of the ALCS by listening to Creed on the road against the Astros, got themselves pumped up the same way. Listening to Creed works. If you want to go improve your life, go put some Creed on the radio, on your CD player, on whatever century this is. I'm going to reference the the old music playing device you have, and go get it fired up. Let's do that. But we'll say, the Vikings did not have Justin Jefferson in this game. Jordan Addison stepped up, showed why they used an early pick on him. The 49ers were banged up. It still was an awful game by all accounts. I think they're not really built to play from behind. That's something that, they're built to play with the lead and run the ball and everything. Brock Purdy didn't look that good. Trent Williams was out this game. Debo Samuel was out. It's not an excuse, but they need to get things back on track, and it's definitely going to be hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, the key takeaways here, the 49ers lost this game, really. The Vikings did some things, but McCaffrey has a key fumble early in the game while they're driving. Brock Purdy throws an interception to really seal it in the end. And that's kind of the two key things that happened. Brandon Ayuk was involved a lot, with Debo Samuel down. George Kittle got his. There were a lot of guys catching passes. Chris McCaffrey did not look great. That can be obviously due to his injury. Um, Trent Williams being out is important, but ultimately, yeah, like you said, it's just not a team that's built to dominate. This isn't a team that can go down 21 points and go, that's cool, just start throwing the ball down the field. Like they are a team that methodically drives, which has been really great and something that a lot of teams cannot do in the NFL anymore, and is a reason they are so successful a lot of times. And the defense just did not look good either. I mean, we're talking like guys like that key touchdown to Jordan Addison at the end of the first half. That didn't need to happen. We're talking about guys that just simultaneously catched it. He was more trying to get the interception than he was just tackling Jordan Addison, and there was no one there to help him either. Like nobody was anywhere near him. That's the thing. You got to know. You got to know where you are. You got to know the situation. And sure, it's great to get that takeaway. That would be awesome. That'd be a huge momentum boost before half. But Jesus, like you got like if that's what you're going for, you got to make sure somebody's got the back end behind you. Like you got to know somebody's going to be able to tackle him 5 yards from now, and that's a worthwhile risk. The risk can't be I get an interception or this guy gets a touchdown. That really cannot be your options. If that's the case, just knock the ball down and that's the end of it. Or if he's going to catch it, make sure you're there to tackle him. Don't let what just happened happen. So the Vikings got some big plays that the 49ers just fell asleep at the wheel. And there's no really easy way to put around it. The curse of the 49ers and Minnesota continues on. They've not won in Minnesota in I don't know what the stat was. I think it was almost like 15 years. And now there's a new fun stat going around the NFL memes out there, the curse of Kirk Cousins. Nobody has won a Super Bowl, or I think it was one, or I don't think anyone's made a Super Bowl after losing to Kirk Cousins.
That's a stat.
You can't make this up, folks. The curse of Kirk Cousins. So really, I think the only way Kyle Shanahan may be able to break this curse is by trading for Kirk Cousins, his beloved. That'd be a heck of an NFL storyline, a heck of a story for them personally, for the two of them, because they love each other and they just never can make it work after all these time.
Yeah.
I think maybe Kirk Cousins is the one for Kyle Shanahan. That's
I
all he wants.
I think it might be. I mean, there's a reason why RG3 was replaced in Washington, and I don't think it was the play on the field. Just go ahead and say it. Anyway,
But it's true.
I did just say I think Jay Gruden had something out for him for different reasons that we found out about in some emails, and I think the Shanahans just love Kirk Cousins, for whatever reason.
Kyle met Kirk, man.
That's right. All right, those are that's a recap for Week 7. We're gonna make our picks for Week 8. Cease. We'll start it off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football. The Bills are favored by 8.5.
I'm assuming Baker's playing. A lot of people are like, I don't know, like even stat books don't want to put props up for Baker Mayfield, like they're afraid he's not going to play. You can do anything with Josh Allen, but Baker Mayfield, you can't pick anything on. I'm going the Bills to win the game, but I'm taking Tampa Bay with the points. It's a Thursday night game. It's a short turnaround, and the Bills have not looked good. They just got the heck beat out of them by his inferior team, and they don't have much time to really recoup and feel good about themselves since that point. And Tampa Bay is one of those teams where, they're going to throw the ball around. That's what Baker Mayfield does. Mike Evans is going to have some 50-yard touchdown catch probably, and that happens early in the game. I don't know how the Bills really bounce back. I think they're too talented to lose this one too. But I don't think this is going to be some big – you're telling me – you give me 8.5, I'm expecting like a big, heavy, like the Bills have no chance of losing this game. And everything I see on the field right now, like I've said, maybe we get a classic Josh Allen just becomes Superman and just starts throwing the ball around the yard and they win, 42-21 or something. I think it's a possibility with him. But from the recent trend and the short turnaround and Thursday night games usually not being the most, well prepared, especially for offenses, that's going to favor Tampa Bay and their less, stylized offense and Baker just throwing it and hoping to God because that's their offense. I don't know how much they have to practice that. And their defense is good enough to make Josh Allen just be kind of upset he can't get the big play. So if they can take away the big play from Josh Allen, he'll struggle, and I think Tampa Bay can cover this game for sure at 8.5 points.
I'm going Bills to win and cover. I honestly I know what we've seen, but I can't see that going on much longer with how much talent they have. This is a Thursday night game in Buffalo. The fans are going to be going crazy. Primetime game. And I also think the Bucks have some pretty big issues. The bailout is what you said, like throw it up to Mike Evans and get a big touchdown, and that gets them some wins. It gets them close in some games. But they have offensive line issues. I don't think they run the football very well from what I've seen. It just doesn't look very clean. And I don't know. I think the Bills can get the job done here. The last 3 weeks they have struggled. 3 weeks before that, they had beaten teams by like an average of 20 points per game. I'm not saying the Bucks are a really bad team, but I do think they have some bad issues that the Bills can exploit. That defense specifically can maybe help them cover in this one. It's a big spread. I'm going with it. Again, if you're going based on how they played last week, I totally get why you take Buccaneers with the points. It just makes more sense that way. But I'm just going more of an overall big picture thing and hoping that they come through. All right, Sunday afternoon, we have the battle of the two rookie quarterbacks who were selected first and second overall. We have the Houston Texans at the Carolina Panthers. This game is one I think a lot of people are excited to see, even though it's maybe not the best of teams. The Texans are favored by 3 points.
Give me the Texans to win and cover. I think C.J. Stroud has played, a lot better than Bryce Young has. Talent around him, situation notwithstanding. He's had a better rookie year. The Texans at times have looked really good. Both these teams have a lot of holes on them, but it seems like the Texans have been able to do things well to kind of mask those holes. The Panthers have not. So I think, it's not a super, it's going to be a close game, but ultimately I just think the quarterback that's playing better is going to be the one that wins, and that's C.J. Stroud.
I agree with that pick. I'm going Texans to win and cover, and not just the quarterback playing well, but also I think that defense under D'Amico Ryans is taking some steps forward this year, and I think they can really cause issues for Bryce Young with that bad offensive line. So I'm going to go Texans to win and cover as well. Next up, we have the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. The current line is at 10 points in favor of the Dolphins, Cease.
Jesus. Give me the Dolphins to win and cover. I don't like that spread. It was 8.5 like 6 hours ago. So, 8.5, I felt a lot more comfortable. 10's starting to freak me out. I think that's starting to get a little overreact. I'm hoping that goes down a little bit because if it goes any higher, I don't know if I can really touch that spread. But the Dolphins are a good team. They're really good. They played really well, and they played well against the Patriots before. I don't think, touchdown to 10 points, I pretty much automatically, unless they're playing an elite team, kind of think that's their range in most games. I usually don't, just week to week, what I've bet is I've had no problem betting something like that. So I think I'm, 10's at the high point, but I'd still take it. Patriots beat the Bills, sure, that's great, but I just have a feeling they're not going to be able to keep that up, and I don't think Mac Jones has two good games in a row.
Absolutely. I'm going Dolphins to win and cover in this one. It is a larger spread, but the Patriots have had so many corner injuries this year. It's getting kind of crazy. They have Marcus Jones. They have Christian Gonzalez, their first-round pick. Two very important corners. That's the one team you don't want your corners to be out against is the Dolphins with their quarterback and their wide receivers. Now, Bill Belichick will still scheme to kind of stop Tyreek Hill. It didn't, they've already played this season. It didn't really stop him all that much last time. He played still pretty well. But if you're one of these people who are wondering about fantasy or daily fantasy or maybe some prop bets for this Sunday, maybe take Jalen Waddle over receiving yards. Maybe see how he does. If they're going to focus on stopping Tyreek Hill, I think it's time for Jalen Waddle to have a little bit of a breakout game in this one against the Patriots because those corners are down and because Tyreek Hill is going to get so much attention. So Dolphins to win and cover for me. I think they're going to get back on track this week. All right, New York Jets at the New York Giants. A road game for the Jets. Road game. Jets favored by 3 points at home, on the road, however you want to say it.
Yeah, give me the Jets to win and cover because it's just a tiny spread. Um, Jets defense plays really well, and I think the Giants offense is not going to be able to move the ball. And the Giants defense has been playing better. But I just, as long as Zach Wilson has shown me enough to be able to get them and keep them in games against teams they have no business being in. And I think this is just, it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be close. It's going to be a very low scoring game that screams an under game for the love of God. But I mean, if I'm picking, I got to go with a team that has an elite defense. And that's really the only reason I'm picking them because, and, Brees Hall is really good as a running back as well. So they've shown a little bit of functionality on offense. So that's why I'm picking them to win and cover.
I'm doing the same thing. Jets to win and cover in this home road game, whatever you want to call it. The thing for me that I think is interesting is that Tyrod Taylor is playing, and it seems like despite that blow up of Brian Dable had of him because of the questionable thing 2 weeks ago with the not spiking the ball or not throwing the ball and running the ball, it seems like he's better suited for this team, and they can kind of make the focal point of the offense Saquon Barkley. So I think Tyrod playing well last week against Commanders makes it a little bit more up in the air, but Jets able to prepare for this game a little bit more time, and they'll be. I think Zach Wilson should be ready to play against a defense that isn't the greatest in the league. So I'm going Jets to win and cover. Next one up, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Dallas Cowboys. This one is an interesting line. Sees the Cowboys are favored by 6.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. I think they're kind of going to get back on track here. It's one of those things where they beat the Chargers. They had the bye week, and I really think the Cowboys kind of come out here. I think they're going to upset the Eagles. I think the Eagles are playing a little less than stellar, so I mean I'm going with them in the upset.
Wait, it's the Rams at the Cowboys, buddy.
It's the Cowboys. Why the hell did I see it was the Eagles?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's next week. We'll talk about that. Yeah, I think I like the Cowboys to win and cover. I think they're playing well. I think they're rested. And I think the Rams just are not playing really great football right now. So give me the Cowboys to win and cover.
I'm going Cowboys to win, but Rams with the points. The reason being, I don't think the Cowboys' offensive issues are solved. It seems like it's very disjointed. Mike McCarthy's trying to make Dak into something he's not, which is like a West Coast quarterback. He's trying to protect from the interceptions that Dak threw last year, but really that's not Dak's game. I think it's kind of one of these. They're still a very good team. They're going to win games. I'll take the Cowboys overall, but just the Rams with the points because I do think that's going to be a big factor. And Trayvon Diggs is out. The Rams have those two good receivers now with Kupp and Nakua. I think they can keep it close. So I'm going to go Rams with the points, but Cowboys to win overall. All right, next one up, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Indianapolis Colts. Right now, the spread is even, Cease.
Man, give me the Colts. They've been playing well. Minshew Mania out there. Jonathan Taylor's getting back involved, and their defense is okay. The Saints away from home. I think home is a big advantage for them, and I don't like what I'm seeing out of Derek Carr in the offense right now. They're not connecting down the field. It's just Alvin Kamara just playing through garbage yards because they can't move the ball really. And that's great because he can get 5 yards on a dump out pass and continue to keep drives alive. But ultimately, it's just not a winning formula right now. So give me the Colts to win and cover.
Colts for me as well. I think the difference in this game is they have a defense playing well. They have an offense that looks at least functional with their two-headed monster, Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor at running back. The Saints don't look good, and I think, obviously mentioned earlier, Dennis Allen is not the greatest head coach. Derek Carr looks disjointed. It looks like they have some off-the-field issues. Chris Olave got pulled over for speeding. It's like a whole mess of things where people just seem like they're frustrated, and I'll take the Colts to win and cover because of that. But before you gamble, make sure you check whether the roof is open. It's always important to know that. We always like when the roof is open for the Colts. The Vikings at the Packers, ceased. Maybe a different game than we would have thought that we were going to get this year between these two teams. The line for this one is also even.
I got to go with the team that's playing better here. Give me the Vikings and a straight up pick them. I just, the Packers have not played well. I can't believe I'm saying this. I trust Kirk Cousins in this game over Jordan Love, not because it's Jordan Love he's going against, but just because I picked Kirk Cousins in a game and saying I really believe in him. I like what I saw last week against the 49ers. I think they can build on that momentum. I think it's a divisional rivalry. Um, I don't think these guys really have playoff hopes, but I think both these teams feel like they do for some reason. Like they think they feel like they have a roster that can compete. Not that I agree with it, but I just like what the Vikings have done overall, and I just can't trust the Packers right now.
Same thing here. The Vikings, I think, are playing really good football right now. They're bouncing back. They're winning without Justin Jefferson. We went from maybe talking about Justin Jefferson sitting out the rest of the season to maybe coming back to a playoff push, which would be interesting. Jordan Addison is stepping up in that number one receiver role while Justin Jefferson is out. And the defense is playing better. So because they listen to Creed, because they're getting this thing rolling, I'm going Vikings to beat the Packers. Until the Packers decide they want to listen to Creed, they're doomed. All right, Atlanta Falcons at the Tennessee Titans. The Falcons are favored by 2.5 points. Now, Ryan Tannehill is not expected to play. It seems like they've said that both Malik Willis and Will Levis will play. It's reported now Will Levis is going to start and play most of the time. So it's a little bit different for Tennessee this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Will Levis at quarterback. I'm going with the Falcons to win and cover. The Titans are one dimensional. I love Derrick Henry, but they just don't do him any favors scheming or game planning. I'm going with not that I like the Falcons, but they know what they're doing and they have weapons if they ever learn to use them. So maybe this will be the time. So give me the Falcons to win and cover against a rookie quarterback. That secondary is going to have a good time with Will Levis.
I'm going Titans to win outright this one. As you hear Rondo.
Know why you're wearing the UK shirt? Was it a big setup?
I mean, I didn't think about that, but maybe I should have. So Rondo really is chiming in right now. We're gonna get him in line. But
your dog you named after a UK player. Now you're picking a UK rookie quarterback to win a football game.
Well,
what's going on here?
The thing is, I wasn't the highest on Will Levis, but we saw quarterbacks in their first game with Tyson Bagent win last week.
Oh man, he's on the Bagent train. That's
it. But then the second week they end up stinking. But no, I think honestly, whoever wins this or scores in this game first, I think might have a better chance of winning because they're both doing the same strategy. It's Arthur Smith, who's from Tennessee, trying to grind down the clock and play defense. And there's not a team. The Titans invented this new mold in the new era of the NFL of doing this with Derrick Henry, the Mack truck running over people. I'm going Derrick Henry. I mean, at least he's going to be used. Maybe not as much as he used to be, but at least he's going to be used as opposed to Bijan being on the bench or Drake London and Kyle Pitts not getting used at all. So I'm going Titans. They're at home. I think Will Levis can have a solid start. He's had time to kind of learn behind Tannehill and with Malik Willis being there. So I'm gonna go with it. I think it's a coin flip, and I do not like the Falcons, so I'm gonna take the Titans.
Cool.
Next one up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kind of a line I didn't expect to be out there for this game. The Jaguars are favored by 2.5. Cease on the road.
I think the Jaguars are. I think this is kind of a disrespect line. I get the Steelers are a good team. I think they get pressure, but I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be more mobile in this game. It didn't seem to hamper him last game anyway with his leg. I just think the Jaguars are better than the Steelers. I think they can score points, which the Steelers can definitely not do well at. And the Jaguars' defense is playing well for the most part. So I think this is kind of a disrespect line. This is kind of a it's the Steelers' defense. So you just never know if they generate some, pick sixes, which is always possible with the guys they got with Minka, with TJ Watt. They can get points off turnovers. But that's hard to gamble with. That's hard to bet on. And, with that, a field goal being the spread, I got to pick the team that has shown that they consistently can drive the ball downfield, score points.
Yeah, I'm going the Jaguars to win and cover. They're hitting their stride right now. The Steelers, I still think they have some issues. Obviously, with offensive coordinator Matt Canada, maybe not being the best for them. right now, and they got to get the ball to George Pickens a lot more. But I mean, Etienne and Lawrence is a dynamic duo that I mean, from college all the way to the NFL, that's playing very, very well. I'm going to give them their props right now as they are playing well and might be playing just as good as any other team in the AFC right now, other than the Chiefs. So Jaguars to win and cover on the road. The last 1 o'clock game sees we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders. The Eagles are favored by 6.5 on the road.
I think I'm going to Eagles to win and cover. I don't think the Commanders match up well with them twice in one season. I don't think it happens again. I think it's you see it enough times. I think the Eagles figure out what the Commanders are going to throw at them, and I think they're going to be smarter. They're not going to be like, oh, the Commanders are garbage. They're going to realize what happened last time, and I still don't think the Commanders have an answer to cover AJ Brown anyway. So, give me the Eagles to win and cover.
Same thing for me. I know they've struggled with the Commanders before, but I'm with you. I think they'll be more focused. The Eagles want to get a good performance out there. I think they know they're not playing up to their potential, even though they are winning games. Eagles to win and cover, even 6.5. Sunday evening game Cease. We have the Cleveland Browns at the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks are favored by 3.5.
I'm going to hedge it. I'm going to say Seahawks win. Give me the Browns with the points, though. I think it's going to be close. I think the Browns defense can dominate at times. It could be a rain game. There's always it's Seattle. Everyone, you never know. Maybe we get some rain, and I just sit there and I want to throw my head through a wall. But ultimately, I like the Seahawks. I like what they've done this year, but I don't think they're a great offense or a great defense. I think there's a chance that basically they get swallowed up by Cleveland's defense in this one. And if that happens, we're off to the races. It just then becomes if they can put together a drive or two, and then the Browns' offense is just got to put something up, just like once or twice. And I think that can really be it. Or the Browns' defense could put them in prime position multiple times. So with that being said, I think Seattle has a good home field advantage. I think they should still win, but I think it's going to be really close.
I'm going Seattle to win and cover. I don't think this is sustainable for the Browns. PJ Walker starting at quarterback, the negative EPA per play. You're down to your third option at running back. Kareem Hunt's lost a lot of explosiveness that he's had over the last several years. Amari Cooper's not even really involved as much as you would like to see a number one receiver being involved. The Seahawks, I think, last week getting Jake Bobo and Jackson Smith and Jigba involved is very good for them. They need to open up the offense and have more options than just DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So I'm going Seahawks to win cover for those reasons. I do think the defense has a chance to keep it close for the Browns, but at the end of the day, I think the offensive firepower, there's just too much difference there. Next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. Remember, these two teams played on Thursday Night Football just a couple weeks ago. The Chiefs are favored by 7 on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win and cover here. The Broncos played them tough, but I think the Chiefs are continuing to get better each week. I just have zero faith in the Broncos. So, I mean, having the Chiefs win a game by touchdown against a bad team, I think is more than fair.
Yeah, the way the Chiefs are playing, like I mentioned earlier, their offense seems like it's finding these extra guys to go to besides just Travis Kelce. They're running the ball well. The defense is playing well. I'll go with them to beat the Broncos on the road at Mile High because I just don't see much from the Broncos. It seems like Sean Payton doesn't really like anyone that's on the roster right now. Probably going to see some guys traded in the next couple of weeks as they start tanking and building for Sean Payton's future in Denver. All right, an interesting game, Cease, that will be locked into. We have the Cincinnati Bengals at the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, the 49ers are favored by 5.5, but the news just broke, Cease, that Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol and Sam Darnold is projected to start for the 49ers in this game. That changes things for me. I don't know if it does for you.
So, I'm going to take. You know what? Maybe I'm doing something crazy here, but I like the Bengals out of the bye. I'm doing it. I think this is the kind of statement game that can turn an entire season around. Straight up. You go to the West Coast, you go to the 49ers, you win this game. I think that can change the whole outlook on the season for the Bengals. Whether it's Brock Purdy, whether it's Sam Darnold, I don't think that changes that offense that much. I mean, Brock Purdy, I think, is kind of just more comfortable being just sitting back there and throwing the ball and just doing what Kyle Shanahan does, maybe more than other quarterbacks necessarily are, to just kind of keep doing this kind of very middle of the road stuff. Um, but here's what I think. I think the Bengals are rested. I think Joe Burrow is going to be healthier in this game. I think T. Higgins is going to be healthier as well. I think the 49ers are banged up, straight up. I mean, I think they're beat up. Brock Purdy, no Brock Purdy. The defense has gotten beat up over the last couple of weeks with injuries. Trent Williams will play probably, but he's not 100%. It's really going to come down to I think if the Bengals key players kind of start playing to their potential. I think if Joe Burrow is able to get to that, no, he's able to throw for 300 yards. I think they win this game. And they've done, I mean, they played a 49ers team similar to this before, and they've had good games against them. They've been close games, and I just really believe that the Bengals team we're going to see, I think they're going to finally kind of get healthier and flip that switch a little bit from what we've seen, because it's just been kind of a wait and see. They're not really healthy. They really haven't been able to chance to really reset. They're 3-3. They're at 500. It's 0-0. They got 11 more games this season. And, I think that's kind of probably been the message in the locker room there. I think they want to go out and compete. They know the 49ers are a good team, and I think this is going to be a good one. So I'm picking the Bengals to win outright, and, I'm definitely heavily invested in a 5.5 spread here, because I think whether Brock Purdy plays or not, if you don't think the Bengals are going to win, that's fine. I can see reasons why. It's more of I just believe being rested and the 49ers kind of getting beat up on Monday night on a short week. I think this is a prime kind of upset, and I don't think it's really that big of an upset if the Bengals can play to their talent level. So give me those points all day.
Yeah, earlier in the week when I did my NFL picks and NFL picks against the spread articles, I had Bengals with the points, but I picked 49ers money line. That's changing. I'm taking Bengals with the points and Bengals to win now, too. Now, I will say with time, I think Sam Darnold could be a solid quarterback in this system. But this is going to be his first, real playing time with the whole system, with the Shanahan system. And it's not like he's going in with a roster that's ready right now to be like they usually are with all the injuries, whether, Debo, Trent Williams, McCaffrey's playing while he's banged up right now. That's a lot. So this is going to be still a defensive struggle, in my opinion. It's going to be, if the Bengals defense can step up and hold the 49ers to maybe one touchdown and a field goal, the Bengals can win this game. If it ends up being that the defense doesn't show up, that's going to be where it's tough, because this 49ers defense still for the most part is healthy and still has very, very good players on it. So going Bengals to win and with the points, I think they can get the job done. And you're right, I do think being off the bye matters when the 49ers are banged up, coming off a short week. And Zach Taylor, he has made good adjustments in the past in terms of how he changes things, whether it's from half to half or even in the season last year when they fixed the running game in the middle of the season. So I think there's reason enough to believe in the Bengals. Again, if Purdy was healthy, I'd probably be taking the 49ers. But the whole quarterback change midweek after the short week, go Bengals all the way. All right, Ravens at the Cardinals. Cease, we have another one of these bigger spreads this week. The Ravens are favored by 8.5 on the road.
Yeah, give me that. Ravens are to win and cover. Like we've talked about, I think the Cardinals are kind of done. The Ravens are one of those teams too where it's not I got to throw the ball to make big plays. I'm just going to pound it. Like they will just run the ball at you the entire game. It doesn't matter. It's gonna not be a close game. I know Cardinals have been playing tough, but this is a team that will wear you down through a game as well. So it's even harder to really go, we got a shot in this, because these guys are going to keep literally physically beating you up until the end of the game.
I'm going Ravens to win, but the Cardinals with the points. The Ravens are too inconsistent right now of a team for me. Either 5-2, I get it, but they go 1 week where they're the world beaters, and then the next week where they have a dogfight with the team they really should beat, and that's kind of frustrating if you kind of follow them or try to gamble on them or pick them. It's frustrating. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. Yes, they're losing some steam. Yes, they're going to lose this game, but maybe they can lose it by a touchdown. Maybe they can get a backdoor cover. So I'm going to go Cardinals. With the points, Ravens to win. Sunday Night Football sees we have the Chicago Bears at the Los Angeles Chargers in a barn burner of a game. The Chargers are favored by 8.5.
Yeah, is Tyson Bajik playing? Or are we getting Justin Fields back?
Not official, but I would expect Fields. I would expect Fields to be out.
Doesn't matter. Give me the Chargers to win and cover. I don't love having the Chargers win a game by 8.5 points, but I don't think Tyson Bagent or Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to put together this great, phenomenal game. Ultimately, I think the Bears, was feel good story. There's no tape on him. I think this week the Chargers are going to see this is what the Bears are going to do with Tyson Bagent. This is how it's going to work. We can now, since we've seen it now for a whole game, we can adapt and we can practice around that. We can understand and key in on that. I don't think the Bears defense is going to stop Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense. Not super hyped about the spread, but I can't confidently say the Bears make it close. So, I need the Chargers to win and cover.
Yeah, the Chargers are in this desperation mode. It's gonna be like we need to win this game. I think they're gonna be focused. They're gonna make sure they pull out all the stops from the playbook just to make sure they win this game. I think they win and cover. As you mentioned, now there's tape out on Bajent. I think teams will know how to attack them, just like you said, and that's going to be the difference. The Chargers still have plenty of good players on defense. They should be better on defense. This could be the start of how they turn things around. It's a get right game. It's a game where they know they just have to show up. So Chargers to win and cover. Raiders and Lions are the Monday Night Football game. Again, barn burner. If you need to spend time with your significant other, you find this Sunday night and Monday night, and you tell her, I don't need to watch football. The Raiders are traveling to Detroit. The Lions are favored by 8 points, Cease.
Give me that all day. The Raiders suck. I don't care who the starting quarterback is right now. I have no faith in those guys. And the Lions beat up on bad teams, especially at home. So sleep easily on Monday night, knowing that your cover of 8 points will be there for the Lions. They were going to beat that spread.
Yeah, everyone knows I'll be watching. I watch all the games, but if you're a person who can't, for whatever reason, someone at home doesn't want you to watch, wants you to spend time with them, you just come ask me what happened. I'll give you a good update. We can talk about it on the show next week, like we always do. And I know this is maybe your free pass this weekend for hey, sometimes Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football games stink. They pick the wrong ones. Maybe people thought that Justin Fields would be good this year, and that's why they picked that one. And the Chargers would be a good team. God knows why they keep on putting the Raiders in all these games. I know there's a big fan base, but I don't know. So I'm going to go Lions to win and cover too. I think Jared Goff gets things back on track. It's a different, different game. You're playing an AFC team you don't usually play with the Ravens. And yes, they're doing the same thing with the Raiders, but the Raiders aren't very good. So we'll go Lions to win and cover. All right, Cecil, any final thoughts for the week?
No, I'm loving the Bengals upset pick, though. It's beautiful. Welcome.
Yes, definitely not betting anything quite yet. We'll see if I change my mind by Sunday. My final thought, Cease, is I still hate the NFL scheduling. There's no bye weeks this week. It's literally the middle of the season, and there's no bye weeks. There's no reason. There's no holidays why you wouldn't do a bye week. And this is why we have bye weeks extending into fantasy football playoff range, because we don't have a bye week in week 9. Every team is in action. That just seems stupid to me. I don't know.
That makes zero sense. I agree. Down with Goodell.
Down with Goodell. He just got a new contract, but it's going to be his last one. He can't live forever for this. He's going to have to retire. But yeah, so final thing here is make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Helps us out as we move along this season. As a reminder, we'll be back next week. It's going to be a busy week for Cecil and I with a lot of things going on. But we'll be back next week to recap Week 8 and pick Week 9. For now, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.